It's no news that Hitman Popeye had boasted of 300 murders and ordered hits on another 3,000 targets during his time as Escobar's enforcer in the 1980s. From politicians to police to his own lover, as Pablo Escobar's top hitman, no one was safe from John Jairo Velázquez. In this video, we will discuss shocking things about Hitman Popeye and some of the absolutely intriguing discoveries about him. Be sure to stay with us till the end of the video, as we have something interesting in store for you. And with that, let's jump right into it. Hitman Popeye's job description. Hitman, a professional assassin who works for a crime syndicate. As a professional killer, he executes people for money. In a very twisted and contradictory way, Popeye also admitted that he killed out of love and respect for Pablo Escobar. You may already know that throughout his career, Velázquez confessed to hundreds of murders, wiping out rivals, local politicians, and Colombian presidential candidate Luis Carlos Gallan Sarmiento, the last of which led to his arrest and a 30-year sentence in 1989. How he got the nickname Popeye and his job before committing crimes. His fascination with firearms led him to become a local policeman and to take a course at the Officer Candidate School for Marines. By reason of his wide jaw and being quite strong, quote, one day he was back in his neighborhood wearing his uniform when a neighbor said, "It's Popeye," end quote. The nickname stuck, but life in the Marines didn't. And soon he joined the Mafia full-time. At first, he worked for a childhood friend, and soon after, he was operating under Pablo Escobar directly. What age was Popeye's first kill? Did you know that Popeye was 18 when he killed his first person? Velázquez was born 70 miles north of Medellin in the Colombian town of Yarumal, and at age 12, his family moved to Itagüí, a suburb of Medellin, where he almost immediately started in a life of banditry. A bus dispatcher in Medellin neglected the mother of a friend of Pablo Escobar's who got off the bus and had a fall. The bus driver did not attempt to help her and left her there for dead. Undoubtedly, when this guy got some money, he asked Pablo Escobar to help him get revenge on this driver. Popeye made some inquiries, found the guy, and killed him. After a first kill, it is expected that Popeye would probably freak out, but according to him, he felt nothing at all after killing him, which was the first pointer that he had a stomach for crime. This was the first evidence that he was fit for the hitman profession. Escobar and his hitman would kill 5 people daily. Pablo Escobar helped form Los Extraditables to wage war against the Colombian state to prevent the extradition of drug traffickers to the United States in the early 1980s. It is no surprise that when Velázquez became Escobar's most loyal hitman, he headed most of the operations that included contract killings, car bombings, and kidnappings. Velázquez and his hitman would each, quote, kill 5, 6, even 12 people a day, of which policemen, judges, presidential candidates, rivals, and civilians were not spared. Were women and children off limits? The question that comes to mind here is, does Escobar and his right-hand man Velázquez exempt women and children from his brutality? Unfortunately, Velázquez followed Escobar's orders to the latter and without question. At one point, Escobar ordered Popeye to kill his ex-girlfriend, Wendy Chavarriaga Gil, for becoming an informant. Shockingly, she was also Velázquez's girlfriend, whom he calls the, quote, love of my life. Here's how it happened. Escobar summoned Popeye and played a tape of Señorita Wendy giving information to a police captain. That was how she got on his hit list. Velázquez could not bring himself to kill her personally, so he arranged to meet her at a restaurant and sent in his crew. He phoned the restaurant to talk to his girlfriend and ordered his men to shoot her as soon as she answered, which they did. When he heard the 2 shots, he felt a, quote, rush of love and anger, end quote, inside him. This proves that no one was off limits. Surprisingly, there was one exception. Escobar had a strict principle of never killing someone in front of their child. Despite this, they viewed the death of children from car bombs as collateral damage. Escobar ordered his hitmen to kill police indiscriminately. According to Velázquez, they killed 540 police and wounded 800 more. Based on the number of policemen they killed, it can be rightly assumed that no other criminal organization in the world has ever confronted the police that way. And what do you think was the police's reaction to this brutality? Police issued a 2,700,000,000 peso bounty for Escobar and 100 million pesos for each of his 4 key hitmen, which included Velázquez. What were Velázquez and his hitmen's strategies to murder government officials? They kidnapped and planted bombs to kill government ministers, journalists, and judges, so they'd amend the Constitution and stop the Colombians from being extradited. Among the top high officials he organized their kidnapping was Attorney General Carlos Mauro Hoyos and Mayor Andrés Pastrana Aranjo, who later became the Colombian president in 1998. How he murdered presidential hopeful Luis Carlos Galán. Despite the terror, presidential candidate Luis Carlos Galán proved unwavering in his support of extradition, and in 1989, he was assassinated. Velázquez, in his confession, admitted that he felt satisfaction after killing Galán. However, he eventually realized it was a horrible mistake. How they orchestrated the bombing of Avianca 203. Among Velázquez's numerous crimes, one of the most notorious ones was the bombing of Avianca Flight 203 in November 1989. What led to the bombing of the airplane? After Cesar Gaviria became Galán's successor, he immediately became a target of Escobar's hitmen. According to their speculations, Gaviria was meant to be on board, but he wasn't, and 107 passengers died when the plane exploded in mid-air. It is shocking how John Jairo Velázquez denied organizing the attack. Instead, he blamed Carlos Mario Urquijo, another of Escobar's ruthless hitmen, and the DAS. Popeye's sentence. For plotting the murder of Cesar Gaviria, Popeye received a 30-year sentence in a maximum security jail in Bogotá. In 2014, Velázquez was released from a Colombian prison after serving more than 2 decades. During his imprisonment, what no one saw coming was that while in prison, Velázquez obtained 14 diplomas on different short courses. It's commendable that he took advantage of his time behind bars to obtain several academic degrees and to seek forgiveness from his victims. He also provided prosecutors with testimony that led to the conviction of a former justice minister close to Escobar. Hitman Popeye's life after prison. Repentance. Hitman Popeye rebranded himself as a political activist and started a YouTube channel where he talked about his former life and how he made efforts to reintegrate himself into society. Shockingly, the Spanish-language channel called Popeye Arrepentido, Remorseful Popeye, has almost 118,000 subscribers, with one of his videos being viewed over 1 million times. His channel featured vlogs of Velázquez's thoughts, as well as his day-to-day activities like chatting with his admirers. You may be wondering what the goals of his YouTube channel were. Well, let's break it down. To start with, he started the channel to tell the day-to-day process of reintegration into society. After getting the opportunity to be born again after 23 years and 3 months of the worst punishment a human being can afford, the purpose of all this is to warn youngsters away from crime. Book. Velázquez released a book in 2015 entitled Surviving Pablo Escobar, Popeye, the Hitman, 23 years and 3 months in prison. TV show. On February 8, 2017, Netflix has launched a TV series called Alias JJ, which is based on his book. The first part of the Alias JJ series featured the bombing of a Colombian airliner in 1989. Popeye described Pablo Escobar's intense reliance on aviation for cocaine production in the second part. And in the third part of the series, there were details of how Pablo Escobar's operation fed the crack epidemic in the United States in the late 80s and early 90s. Net worth. It wouldn't be wrong to assume that Velázquez made millions while working for the Medellin cartel. But, of course, most of that wealth was lost after his arrest. Popeye made money from selling his book, available on Amazon, as well as selling the rights to Netflix. In 2019, he appeared in the film Ex Sicario, Pablo Escobar's Hitman. Velázquez was estimated to have an impressive net worth of $300,000 at the time of his death. Popeye's unending respect for Escobar. Despite his remorse, Popeye said he would always be an assassin. Furthermore, the hitman boasted about his reputation on the streets, calling himself the living memory of the cartel. Even while expressing regret about his crimes, he continued to demonstrate admiration for his former boss. Ultimately, he would never speak ill of Pablo Escobar. Popeye's rearrest. After 23 years in prison, Velázquez was arrested again in May 2018 on accusations of, quote, conspiracy to commit crime and extortion, end quote. Colombian authorities rearrested Popeye for violating his parole after he was caught partying with a major trafficker, Vallejo, who had been a drug trafficker for 30 years and had accumulated a fortune almost as large as Pablo Escobar. Popeye's death. Popeye died at the National Cancer Institute in Bogotá, where he'd been receiving treatment for stomach cancer for months. Popeye indeed seemed genuinely sincere about his redemption before he died. However, we cannot dispute the fact that some of those who suffered his crimes were troubled by his newfound celebrity. Interestingly, what no one expected was that Popeye would live to die a natural death. In that sense, he certainly beat the odds. Be sure to click the like button and subscribe to our channel to get other interesting updates. Thanks for watching.